Romero, Romero, where art thou, Romero? Well, I'll tell you where he is, right here on I Built Them So You Don't Have To. Welcome back to the channel. I am Mad Capper, and as said, it is time to take a look at Romero and Juliana, the two champions, two of the other champions, I should say, who were buffed in the most recent patch. I'm finally getting an opportunity to do it, and we're going to hit two birds with one stone. I've already done videos on both of them, which you can check out just over there. I'll leave a link up there and in the description down below, the original videos, and I think, give you a good idea on where they are then compared to now. And let's just first review their kits, and then we'll take a look at some stuff and do some tests on them. But if we go to the recent raid patch notes that dropped a couple weeks ago, you'll see that Juliana had a skill 2 lethal partner. The cooldown was changed from 5 to 3 significantly. There's no books for cooldowns there, so that is a strict 5 to 3, which makes a big deal. We'll talk about that in a minute. And the skill 3 fire purgation from 5 to 4. Again, no books on for cooldown, so that's a straight one turn drop if you just get her right. If you just pull her today as a brand new player, that's gonna be a huge deal on both of those, going from 3 and 4 turns respectively without books. And then of course you have the ascended skill, fire purgation, which now removes all buffs from the target instead of just one random buff. And then Romero Succor was skill 2 effect change, steals 1 buff from each enemy instead of stealing 1 buff from a random enemy, so that's kind of cool. And it is a steal, not a cleanse, but a steal, so he's gonna put those buffs on himself. And the cooldown is from 5 to 4. Now there is a book on there, just keep that in mind. And Divine Benefaction effect change now places a 60% increase buff on this champion instead of a 30, and the cooldown is changed from 6 to 5. There is a book on there as well. So let's take a look at the two champions. I know normally I run through a gauntlet in the campaign, but because we're looking at two of them, I just don't think it was realistic for me to do it that way. I'm sorry if you were like, that's how I wanted to see it. Please don't riot. Let's take a look at Romero first. I have him in a stun set. We do have him for damage, just so we can see what kind of damage he does in the game here. And we've got a 35k HP, 5200 defense based champion, 254 crit damage, 212 speed, does not need accuracy unless you want him to steal. I wasn't testing for steal. It does or it doesn't based on your accuracy. You don't need to test it. So now keep in mind, I did put him for damage, but the only thing he really has for a damage ability is this one here. So I don't recommend building him from damage, but I do want to see what the damage can do, because in certain scenarios, if this is to do a big amount of damage with Juliana, then obviously you want to build him for damage, because that's an AoE with 3 hits, pretty significant. Then he's got this, the big shield. Like I said, it was 6 to 5. It's down to 4. That's right? I feel like that said 5 to 4 already. Maybe they counted the 6 to 5. Okay, yeah, that was weird. Sorry. So now it's 4 turns when booked. 50% shield increase from the books. That's kind of one of the highest shield values I've ever seen for books among any champion. And then you've got 1 book here for the cooldown from 4 to 3, and that's a continuous heal, another great ability. And then this here has some 4 books on it, unfortunately, but pretty good, even though it's a baby heal. The fact that it's on an A1, so countering any type of countering hits is just going to increase the number of those. Keep in mind, that's a bad thing sometimes in the Hydra, unless you know where that continuous heal is going to be dropped. Lowest HP, so you always got to know where that's going. So just keep that in mind. So that's him. And then Masteries, we did him like this. Give him some removing debuffs, some damage mitigation, some block debuffs. I would think that he would actually be pretty good under resistance as well, but we did take the tough skin for plus 75 and the decrease this champion has under sleep, etc, etc, etc. So the big thing here is we're going to do some damage testing, getting to this War Master proc here. Now for Juliana, we have, we can just do this backwards. We have her in a pretty traditional, for me, how I normally build up my nukers, pretty traditional setup for the system here. Of course I did this again, I apologize. We have War Master proc, and then we have, I like having that Ruthless Ambush, and I like having Heart of Glory, because if you're taking damage, then you're probably not doing it right. You're at least going to get a bunch of hits at full health first. and then she's probably going to be hitting people with higher max HP than her. And then I always like getting this retribution, and I always like getting improved parry. So that's her stats, her skills, and we'll move back over here. She does have an increase ally crit rate in arena, which is actually a pretty decent skill in the early to mid game when you don't have speed. You're not necessarily going to be able to outspeed people. Neither will they. There's no arbiters in that early game unless it's the broken arena part of it, but it's going to give you a really good chance. Pair that with your starter, you're going to get some pretty good damage numbers out of her at lowered crit rate, so it just gives you all that opportunity. Now the opposite of good book value is this. Now the thing is, the 75% on a single target HP burn is not awful. So there is an argument to be made that she is very good even without this debuff, because she's removing all buffs from the target and then has a 75% chance of placing that HP burn. Now you can book her like I have her booked and get that to 100, or you can probably just use her without books into this ability because there is no cooldown at the bottom. So this is a really good optional booking champion, and the same goes for her A2. This does extra damage, but there are 0 benefit. Well, I mean 20% extra damage benefit, but it's additive, right? So it's 20% of the damage, not 20% extra damage. If that makes sense. So you can absolutely not book her. And the big thing here is that increased crit rate is going to give her 100% uptime now that it's down to a 3 turn. And she's putting poisons every 3 turns, which is nice against bosses. She's got a boss. She's up against a boss. She's putting an HP burn, and she's putting a poison on a boss. Even the clan boss, now she does have an A1 when we move to here that attacks one enemy 2 times, and each critical hit fills the champion's turn meter. So that's something you have to be aware of, but I do believe Deadwood Jedi's calculator makes use of that, so you can still use her and kind of determine how that turn meter boost is going to affect your team's runs. But you should be able to, in some instances, be able to use her, especially like I said in the early game, because she really doesn't need books. If you have the books to spare, the epic books, yeah, especially her A3 is going to be much better, but you could use her 0 books out the box and she's going to do very strong damage because her key abilities that increase crit rate, the poison, the damage, and the fact that it ignores 50% defense from Romero's on the same team. And then her artifacts, we have her in Savage gear, and her total stats here: 33,000 HP, 5917 attack, 204 speed, 243 accuracy, and of course 274 crit damage. We're trying to get her to hit really hard, 70% crit rate because we're making use of that buff. Okay, so now let's take her into some damages and see how she pairs up against some of our heavy-hitted single target nukers that we have in the game. All right, for our first test, we brought in Errol. He hits really hard on his A3. So this, or I'm going to say their best ability. It's going to be his A3. It's going to be Juliana and Whisper's A2. It's going to be Rodos's A3, and Venus is there just to debuff. And just to get a quick look at their stats, Night Iron, I believe it's in Savage, 236 crit damage, 5667 attack. So not quite the same level as the other two, but still going to give you a kind of a good general idea. Whisper is only actually, she's in the different level, especially because of her blessing, but 6822 attack, 264 crit damage. You see how good that blessing is, hey? 1000 HP, 400 attack, and 20% crit damage. It's just obscene. Like in addition, on top of stats, so that gives her that crazy attack number. She is also in Relentless, not Savage, so she's got way more attack, over 800 attack extra, but doesn't have the extra 25% ignore defense. So and then 224 accuracy. And then we'll take a look at our Rotos. Our Rotos here is 6228 attack. I don't know why I'm laughing. That's the dumbest dad joke ever. 244 crit damage. We're not building for accuracy in this particular case here, and he's really slow, but that probably doesn't matter. So let's take him into the dragon. We're doing 23 because it's Void Affinity. That way when we bring in Romero to test him, it'll give you a pretty good idea. Okay, so I hit her A1. That's stupid. I was just trying to recenter the screen, Plarium. Now, this doesn't cost me 1,000 energy every time I do these. Don't you worry about me. Okay, we're gonna go with that A2. We're gonna hit, I think that's Temptress, is it? Oh, 172. So she's dead. Really nicely. And then we're gonna do the same thing over here. Not dead. So, but still pretty hurt. pretty injured. Let's try Lua here. 189, pretty good damage as well. And then we'll let you go after Renegade. 120, you've actually been the worst. That's kind of awesome. Okay, let's take the numbers here. So 217 Whisper, she obviously went next level. She also hit both her procs, War Master proc, and her lightning, I think it's called Lightning Bolt, isn't it? But Juliana, I mean, you know, Knight Errant has that extra 40% damage when he's at 100% HP. So that's why that's so big. But Juliana, kind of not bad. 145. And Rhodos at 120. So as far as the big nukers, I think she's holding her own. She's not quite Whisper level, but she's definitely stronger than Rhodos. And Knight Errant, remember, he has to have full HP. That guy loses 1 health, and he doesn't hit nearly as hard. He hits less than she does. So always just keep that in mind. All right, so now we're going to edit the team here. And we're going to take out Rhodos. Just, it gives you an idea, but I need something else. I need Broadmaw in here. And the reason is we want to test their A3s, but they still need that. They still have that 70% crit rate, so they still need that crit rate buff. So this just gives us a chance to simulate what it would be if they were putting it on themselves. And now keep in mind, she also gets an extra turn. I'm going to hope for less extra turns. So you look at 620, and then please don't get an extra turn. Oh, worked. Okay, and we're going to take a look at her A3. Not bad, didn't kill, but did put the HP burn, so that's good. And we're gonna look at his A2 because his A2 is his secondary ability. Obviously much less, but with that stun. So, you know, purely from a damage perspective, again, Whisper's ahead of Juliana, but that's an extra hit. Keep in mind, if you don't have defense down weaken, she doesn't get that extra hit. And if that's the case, Juliana actually is right in there. I think the health on Tempest is 200,000. I think. So I'm a little bit confused as to why she got 217 on the last one, because she obviously died, but only 203,507 was her obviously her HP. So she would have hit harder than that, Whisper, with her extra turn. But without that extra turn, say you only have a defense down, Juliana is going to be very comparable in damage numbers. So very strong showing on their A3s, very comparable, considering Whisper has an extra almost, well, I'd say 900 attack. In comparison, it's pretty impressive actually. So now let's replay it again. This time we're gonna do A1s. Get that increased crit rate up on them, and then A1 here, 73 plus that 25 proc. And what are you gonna get? Boom, boom, 50, 100. So actually better. I don't think I saw a War Master proc on there. Yeah, she didn't get a War Master proc, so that's why they're even closer. But Juliana, in spite of her attack being lower, actually hits better on her A1 because it's a double hit, and she's boosting turn meter, her own turn meter. So if that would have got a War Master proc, add another 20 to that. But pretty good showing overall. I think Juliana's looking pretty good. So at this point, let's bring in Romero, because there's one other thing you have to keep in mind. So what we're going to take out is we're going to take out Errol. We only have to test A2s because that's where that extra 50% damage comes when Romero's on the team. We're also going to bring in Solus so we can compare their damages. So let's do this. We're going to try to do it all at once. It's probably a stupid thing to do, but nonetheless. So again, just as a reminder, 150. Now she's getting the extra turns. Boom. All right. So we can do those 3 hits here. You got 1 stun out of it. Didn't hit for a lot. We're going to redo that because it's an AoE and there's dead champions. We'll redo that. So let's take a look at this A2 now. And that hit for over 200,000. So as soon as Romero's on the team, in spite of the fact that Juliana has a 900 less attack, she's hitting the same as Whisper. Now, of course, that means you got to have them both on the same team. But that's not a bad thing. So anyway, let's replay here. Let's do some debuff. Oh shoot, sorry. God, I should say sorry to me. I think it's 400 energy so far. We're gonna take out, no, we can't take out Juliana. We're gonna take out Whisper for that damage. So Romero only gets that triple hit if Juliana's on the same team. So we're gonna test the damage on that. We kind of saw it wasn't crazy good. also keep in mind that he's going to use that after he uses his buff abilities. So he uses his A2, then his A3 on priority. So this would hit a little bit harder because he would actually have a decreased defense or an increased defense on himself. Just hit there. Just take that turn. Now we'll see his AoE. Now I did notice there was one debuff missing, but it's consistent, so pretty fair among all enemies. Yeah, see, 275 versus 560. Probably would have been 300 with that extra buff. Probably would have been 600. So it's roughly half of what Solus does, and that's pretty expected. Romero is not a damage dealer. It doesn't do awful damage, but you can get away with just ignoring that. Maybe make sure it crits so that you get some decent follow-up damage, but you're more about using that AoE to do things like maybe sleep, stun, taunt. Taunt would be a really good ability on him. Any of those sort of abilities that can just activate because it's an AoE. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe artifact sets only they proc on ability, not on hits. So even though it's a 3-hitter, it'll only proc as a one whole thing. When the ability's done, you see one person get stunned. It wouldn't stun one temp, two temp, three. Get 3 opportunities to stun. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately, because this would be an OP skill for Romero if it did. But still, an 18% chance AoE is one of them at an average is going to get stunned. So not bad. But you can tell you don't need him for damage. I'm not going to rebuild him up, but just keep that in mind. You're better off getting him to higher HP and higher attack or higher defense, and just get him crit capped with crit rate gloves, and then just stack that defense, and don't worry at all about don't worry at all about crit damage. And certainly you can convert some of that crit damage into accuracy, so his steel buff works a little better. So with that said, why don't we now, let's just take the same one. We're gonna run it in we're gonna run a team here. We'll bring Whisper as well. Will we bring in Whisper? Yeah. I was thinking of maybe bringing in a secondary, like a wave clear, and see. Let's do that. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do a head to head. Who do I have as a? I'll bring in Ethos to help with clear the waves. What we're gonna do is we're gonna run this once with just Whisper, and then we're going to run once with Juliana, and the rest of the team stays the same, and we'll see what kind of difference this makes one versus the other. I really feel bad about using Ethos, but I don't really have a strong epic wave clear unlike him. The reason I say that is because he's going to put down the weaken, is going to give her an unfair advantage because there's no epic that has defense on and weaken. She has her own weaken though, so I guess it doesn't make that much of a deal. Whatever, we'll do it. Okay, that's fine. All right, so first run, let's go. Oh, that's 3 seconds I wasted. Just remember that. This is where it'll actually might make a difference, although he's gonna probably kill her yet. My boy still hits. See, this is where it might make a difference. Once the defense down goes. Oof. He just hit Romero. That's a 5,200 defense. God, you forget how good Faceless hits, right? Thank God he had as much health as he did. Alright, there we go. Now we're on the boss. This is where we're going to see what goes on. Honestly, the Ethos' buff has not helped her once because of the way the rotation's working, which is good because we want to see it in action. We don't want to create an unfair advantage here. See, there's that extra turn, but she actually hit with her A1 after Ethos did, so either way that weaken was probably going to be there. She has a 75% chance on her A1. Well, I will say these guys aren't even getting killed. That defense up is such a big underrated skill when it comes to dungeon fights. I think a lot of people don't realize how well and how strong that is. The strengthen is even more so. The strengthen just makes this pretty much a joke. So there you go. So so she's did 2.4 million, 2.394 and got me a piece of crap set. So let's edit the team. Now let's bring in Juliana and we'll see what kind of difference, how close she is to that. I think there's a pretty cool comparison. Given especially how good Whisper is at dungeons, especially boss level. I think it's going to make a big deal. Pretty much this is so far looking very similar to how the other one did. Oh, we got scammed there. That cost us, well, there's that 3 seconds. You gotta watch for that faceless hit. Oh, she went after her that time. Just difference in HP. That's not good. Hopefully she gets picked up right away here. Oh, good. There we go. That really didn't lose anything. It's good. Right, now if her A2 is up, then we're looking pretty good. Yep. God, that's crazy damage. So what you're going to see here is the difference between the two. Whisper is just nukes harder on bosses. She gets that 20% extra damage. But Juliana gets the extra poison and HP burn damage. So we're going to see how that balances out. As far as time goes, they're looking pretty close to the same. I actually didn't pay attention what the time was on the previous ones, but 136 I think, or 140 maybe. The only downfall is this team has got a pretty good rotation going, so you're not getting as many ticks as you would normally get here. But yeah, still did quite a bit of damage with that. And yeah, they're pretty much identical. Now let's see what the damage shows. Yeah, 2 million, just shy of 2 million. So Juliana dying in the previous round meant that you didn't get a little bit of damage beforehand. I have actually run this through a couple times without Ethos, and Juliana can actually out damage, believe it or not, can actually out damage Whisper on this run, because her consistent damage with those poisons and with that HP burn just adds to the numbers. So whatever, you guys just fast forward through half my stuff. Anyway, we might as well do a third one with both just to see it. And let's even do this, because then that's really fun. That's where you see the damage happen. Now this is going to be a little bit slower because you don't have a wave clear, or I don't have a wave clear here. So they're going to have to do it all on their own. Which is also, by the way, why we need Ursula in this, because people gonna die. People gonna die in this one, but that's okay as long as they get picked up. And actually, not doing too badly. Romero, I think he's done one person in all the tests, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, get her. Good. I also haven't seen a lot of extra turns out of her, considering she's in Relentless. We've been kind of unlucky there. Oh, look at good heals. Good heals. There's an extra turn. See, you just have to ask for it. Honestly, it's not... I mean, how much difference in time was that? Like 20 seconds without an AoE clear? But what you're going to see here is you're just going to see a ton of damage. Really need that weaken from Whisper. Come on, Whisper. Come on, Whisper. Whisper. Yes, there's the weaken. There we go. Again, next to no. Look how little damage they took with this team. So it's a little bit slower. We're looking at about 10 seconds slower when they're together, with no AoE clear though. Now about 20 seconds. But we're gonna see. I think Juliana's gonna outdamage her that. Oh, maybe not that last hit was pretty cool. 2.6, 2. Yeah. So there you go. When Juliana lives, when they're together on the same team, Juliana actually out damage Whisper. Now it's a bit of a cheat, because Juliana's going to do more damage on the waves when she has Romero to boost her damage. But Whisper is 800, 900 attack higher than Juliana. Juliana is Savage, so maybe that's a trade-off. Juliana has about 15% more crit damage, so you can probably argue when you weigh out all the differences there, they're pretty similarly boasted. Whisper didn't get a whole lot of extra turns as compared to normal, but hey, Juliana, especially with Romero, and I would say probably mostly with Romero, very strong champion anywhere you need that single target nuking like a boss level hitting. I'm very, very happy with it. The last place I want to test them is in the arena, so why don't we head there next? So Monday arena testing is probably the worst thing. Let's clear this out, and it's never fun because you're probably not getting anything good out of it. Now we got to bring them both in, I think, to really show where Juliana can be useful. Romero, we should probably, you know what, I'm going to do this first because we're bringing him into the arena. Romero, he doesn't lie, he isn't a damage dealer, so I like the stun set, but I don't think we need crit damage gloves. I think we're just going to quickly kind of recalibrate him for higher defense, higher speed, and you know, the chance to remove buffs is always a nice added bonus. Steal them, sorry, should say steal them. So let's go with, we could, I want to keep him in the stun set, right? All right, tell you what, you leave me with this and we'll come back in a second. All right, we're back, and it says updated stats. We got him his defense. I didn't do a whole lot, but we got a little bit more speed and that defense even higher, just to see if that helps. A little more accuracy too. I don't know what's gonna happen here, to be perfectly honest with you. I do want, let's do a speed boost and single target nuker, probably 2 single target nukers. So, you know, I don't think we're going to use her very often in here, but she is kind of useful, given how hard she can hit at just kind of clearing people out. If we take a look again, let's just remind ourselves what we're focusing on for the arena. Removes all buffs from the target is a big deal here because that was one of the changes they made. I don't think she has another, no. And then of course that 50%. And for Romero, it's stealing 1 buff from each enemy, and he does prioritize his A2 followed by his A3 followed by the A4 if Juliana's on the team. I would also say, by the way, that Romero, very viable, especially with the cooldown differences, very viable without Juliana. I think that Juliana gets more out of Romero than Romero gets out of Juliana, which is a state of their relationship and it's none of our business. But something like this might be might never be seen in arena, but let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. This is going to be a pretty easy one, but it's a good start. Just want to see. So we probably want to do this because they had no buffs on them. We didn't get any stuns again. We're really rocking that. We want to get rid of her first, right? He's the dangerous one. Not a bad deal. Probably need to stop weak hitting champions that I don't need to hit. See, there you go. Perfect example. Was able to steal that. I should have used that before. That was me being an idiot. But that was a dumb. Let's try another one. God. I always hate arena. I always hate trying to set up arena. Is there going to be any buffs here? We'll find them. Well, shield buff. want to cut because, of course, we did. Thankfully, they went after her. She got some. She got some moxie. We're gonna steal. We did steal some. We need her not to go. He still uses day 3? Yeah, she's on the team. Still have not stunned anyone of any note. See, that's what happens. So, I don't know. I don't think this is something you're probably going to use, but I think in the early to mid game, I can see a use for this. I can see this being wildly fun, I guess. Oh, God. See, like, we just fought these teams, and then we have to follow it up, like, with this team? Where's that team? Where's that 100 team? Right here. Right? I'm curious to see what would... Up faster. Yeah, there we go. Because we want to steal those buffs. We were able to steal none of them. That was to be expected. All right, so I'm gonna go after her. Boom, 67. So again, she can't steal those. She can't steal those buffs. We just need to survive right now. That's a problem. He's still got this. Oh, do we try whittle that? There's a 2-turn. There's no way I'm gonna one-shot him. This might come back to haunt me, but yeah, I knew it. Why did I knew it. I said it to myself. Buff blocked. And I even said that to myself. And of course, we probably activated his peril on one shot because this is raid arena defense. See? How did I know he was activated on one hit? This fucking game makes me laugh. It's almost comical how predictable it is. But we're not out of it yet. Fortunately, resisted. Give her a heal. No! No! That actually worked out really well for me. That stone skin saved my life. I'm not convinced I can't win this. Killer. Oh, man. Oh, I still gotta wait a turn? Okay, we're in trouble. We're especially in trouble. That shield. Okay, she's gonna get a turn here, so that's good. I want to go after him last because if he doesn't die, like, see, this is a problem. Well, we're gonna get troubled anyway. Do we try to stun him? He didn't get it. That's a big deal. She actually, I gotta tell you, she's got one hit ability. She's got the ability to kill any champion, and I think you can't discount that. That is an ability she has. That was a legitimately tough team to fight. And we were able to do it. We were able to, and we got unlucky. Peril was opened on first hit against our Rotos. So, yeah, overall, I think really good champion. So why don't we go to final thoughts for our Romero Juliana the love story that would be in Raid Shadow Legends. All right, my final thoughts. I'm not going into either of the champions, but what I will say is my final thoughts are these are two really great champions. They were good champions. Juliana, very early, 3 years ago, was a great champion. Then she got power crept left, right, and center by just about every champion of a nuking nature that got entered into this game. Romero is kind of the forgotten defensive stalwart. Again, his cooldowns were pretty obscenely low or high, depending on how you look, I guess, making him not as viable as many of the other champions, some of which you even saw in here, like Ursula. But I think when you see the changes that done by Romero now, and you see how he can be used, and you see how good Juliana is now with her cooldown, she's getting to those abilities quite easily, and you extrapolate, especially Juliana, for the nuking ability with the HP burn, with the poisons, and Romero with just that general utility. He's a support champion extraordinaire, and I think the two of them together, especially for Juliana's damage, the fact that she could outdeal Whisper's damage to me was significant, and I think it's something that you cannot discount. Like, that is a lot of damage that she was able to overcome. And again, I say this a lot, if you're going to be a single target, you have to bring something more. And what Juliana does in a timely fashion, now that they've changed her cooldowns to 3 and 4, is that she's bringing more. She's bringing an HP burn, she's bringing a poison. Any boss, except for those noted bosses that are resistant to that, so the Hydra boss, the poisons are a little less useful, although there's still a couple heads that can take poisons. And of course, the Magma Dragon, for example, HP burn would actually heal him, adds a continuous heal on him. So, from that perspective, I think Juliana's a really great option. I think she's really strong, and I'm really glad that she got this buff that makes her viable again. The most important thing, and I cannot stress this enough, is that Juliana, unbooked, incredibly strong, especially considering she needs so many books. So if you pull this champion and you don't have the books, you're a free-to-play player, you're early on, this should be the first champion you 6-star if you get them. I think there's, unless you get a legendary early and pull the luck, but like for the average everyday, like fools like the rest of us, I like to say, Juliana it's just so top tier now, because you're getting a 4-turn cooldown with no books. You're getting a 3-turn cooldown with no books. She automatically gets 30%. She's got 45% crit rate out of the box, right? Think of the very early game. You get a pair of 5-star gloves and you're like, yeah, 5-star crit rate. She's at 100% pretty much right there, right? That is so strong. 1400 attack, pretty good. Yeah, her defense and HP, she is a little bit squishy. You have to know that. You're probably going to need a reviver early on, but you get one in Shaman. She's back. Shaman is back in the game for new players. So I can't say enough about how important she is by herself. And then once you get Romero, I think these are a viable duo. I think that I'm probably going to put them into my Faction Wars, even though I have a lot of really good Faction Wars champions, because I think at the end of the day, they'll make it quicker. I have champions like Sir Nick, I have Roshkard, but all these passives that they're giving is not going to take down a champion as quickly as Juliana is just hitting them. So I'm going to try it, obviously, but I think that for most of you, having Juliana, and especially having Juliana and Romero, very strong for you in Faction Wars. So overall, really excited, really happy for the changes. I think that brings them back in line. I think it brings both of them back in line as far as that usability goes. But of course, this is not just me one-sided. I'd like to know, what do you guys think? Do you think this is not enough for them? Do you think they're still not usable? Or do you think they're actually worth building and using now in the game? I know some of you really wanted to see Romero hit harder with that A3 or A4, but the fact that he has 2 non-hitting abilities, I don't think it would have been worthwhile to build out that way, because without Juliana, he's only got his A1. So even if he nuked at 6 damage or 6.5 damage on an AoE, it still wouldn't be strong enough, because you have to have Juliana. So this keeps them both very strong separately and even stronger together, which isn't that what a partnership's all about. The only thing I will say that I dislike about this, and it's the most stupid reason, is from a lore perspective, Romeo and Juliet were from different houses, and it was a forbidden love that ended up in tragedy because the two of them couldn't be together. So if it were me, I think Romero has to move over to the Bannerlords. 2 different houses, then the love story. Okay, I know it's stupid, but or maybe give him some funky steampunk gear, move him into Knights Revenant, and then they can truly be mortal enemies that come together or something like that. I know it's stupid, but I think that's it. That's the only complaint I have about them. So there you go. That's all I have. I appreciate you watching the video, and as always, be kind, be safe, and we'll see you in the next one.